All right, everyone, and thank you for staying with us, staying patiently. Thank you to another panel of, welcome to another panel of Bharat Climate Forum 2026, from mines to gigawatt, India's clean tech manufacturing story. And here we will discuss more on India's clean tech manufacturing implementation plan, how India can strengthen its R&D, skilling, supply chains, and increase global competitiveness and self-reliance we can become in this sphere. So the guests have been introduced already, and without wasting much time, let's start with the first question to Dan, and we would like to ask you, first of all, your company Propapco has been engaged in actively financing clean energy manufacturing and climate-aligned industrial projects now. From development finance perspective, how do you assess India's readiness to absorb large-scale capital for clean tech manufacturing?
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me today. So maybe before responding to your interesting query, very quickly, Proparco, to set up the tone. So we are a development finance institution, French development finance institution, present in India since 2008. And we are focusing mainly into two pillars. The first pillar will be dedicated to how to protect our planet, and the second pillar will be dedicated to how to reduce the inequalities. The planet pillar is a very important pillar for us in India. Because India is the country of innovation. So of course we can easily finance very mainstream renewable energy project. But in India is really the place where Proparco is dealing with innovation. In the clean tech space, we are since few years we are super focused on circular economy and all the technology related to circular economy. The agtech is also a very interesting sector where we can tackle mitigation and adaptation, battery storage. And one sector where we learned a lot, I was saying to Sir, is the solar PV manufacturing. So one of the main, I would say, comparative advantage in India will be really the regulatory ecosystem with the PLI, which is coming up. And the large, I would say, domestic demand, which is very much interesting on battery storage or solar PV manufacturing, and all the PLI schemes, the Make in India schemes, and all the net zero commitments clearly is something which push DFI like Proparco to go behind what we are planning and to finance and to support India's transition. And mainly for us, two interesting examples would be the solar PV manufacturing. We really discovered the sector thanks to Premier Energy. Proparco is the LP of the South Asia Growth Fund, so they have invested into Premier Energy. So we worked a lot with them in order to understand the sector, in order to understand how DFIs can support this sector where still a bit risky, we are still talking about maybe some nascent technology, and where you still have a lot of value added and additionality of Proparco. And I think the other sector where we can see India value added will be the battery ecosystem. Before, I think few years ago, we are only on the assembly of parts, and now we are. You have interesting company taking the lead and talking about how to manufacture those cells. So this is really interesting, and this is where we saw our support in the coming years.
Fine, thank you. And coming to you, Bhupender Balaji, former Secretary MNRE. So looking back on India's journey to build foundations of domestic clean tech manufacturing through cycles of growth and stress, now what lessons they are most relevant for India's current and future push into the clean tech manufacturing?
Thank you so much. You know, as I mentioned briefly in the morning, and you've seen the journey of our clean tech manufacturing so far in India. You know, we started very slow, frankly. When we came out with a big solar policy, it was pushed in 2015. We announced a 100 gigawatt target. However, manufacturing kind of did not, there was a lag between setting up investments, putting up investments in manufacturing for this big policy. It had to happen. So we started giving attention to it after a couple of years, and that's where the investment started. And now, of course, we've caught up. As was mentioned briefly in the morning, we have more than 100 gigawatt, in fact, of solar module manufacturing capacity in India. To give you an example, I am told, I understand the manufacturing association is here, there is much more than this 100 gigawatt official number. Cell manufacturing is coming up. Wind manufacturing has been there for a long time. It has gone up significantly, but we are still importing some components, and of course some turbines are also imported, and those are used in component. The issue is that how do we have a policy which takes care of our learnings from the last 10 years, frankly. One, I would say that the manufacturing competitiveness of what we are doing. Although 100 gigawatt manufacturing capacity is there, but we can supply within India because we have a policy of encouraging domestic modules to be used in India. However, can we export abroad? I think we are exporting only to a couple of countries. We are not exporting across the world. How do we compete with China? China has the lowest manufacturing cost so far in clean tech, and therefore it's difficult to compete on one-on-one basis unless there are some either advantages or disadvantages to China or advantages to Indian exports. We are still doing it, but again, it's limited. So I think what is important is that we must look at the entire ecosystem. Manufacturing competitiveness will depend on materials, it will depend on components availability, how do we produce that, what are the logistics associated with producing it, what is the kind of low-cost finance available, and so on and so forth. And therefore, the whole ecosystem can lend cost advantage, or at least dispel the cost disadvantage to some extent to our system to make it flourish. Number two, we have suffered, and we do suffer, import variability due to the upstream sectors, upstream components, and you have seen that the prices vary so much and people change prices so much that we face volatility at the upstream level. So we need to reduce this import dependence at the upstream level. That's the second, I would say, a big learning from our previous experience. And the third is that we should not treat clean tech only as clean tech sector. I think we need to make sure that clean tech manufacturing is considered in tandem, aligned with the industrial sector. Decarbonization must become part of it, as part of our growth. And therefore, both will get aligned to some extent. And therefore, I think these are a few learnings from how we have traveled so far. We still have a long way to go, but I think we'll get there.
I'll come to Mr. Ganesh Chaudhary, CMD's Vikram Solar. Again, taking a cue from what Sir said, India versus China, gaps and opportunities when we talk about renewable building out. So what's your thought on that?
Thank you, Sumit, and thank you all the panel. Being in the sector for now over 2 decades, my personal experience has been that we've seen it from almost being a cottage industry to where it is today. The transition is not just about scale, it's about the depth, the integration and the resilience of this sector. And India has not just proven that, being in this to actually take over the narrative in a significant way. The way India has deployed renewables and specifically solar, we have seen more than 260 gigawatts deployed. Since 2014, 43x times of solar has been deployed. And being the third largest solar generator in the world, we have a lot of experience So I'll talk about 5 key takeaways in terms of where we see that this sector is, where is it at and where it can go to. I think the first one is policy. We see that policy certainly creates consistency, but what we also need is the depth of policy and the competitiveness. The second one is scale. How do we create scale, like Mr. Bhalla said, which integrates and creates value across the capturing across the value chain. And the third one is cost leadership, which alone itself cannot drive this. There has to be a bigger moat for manufacturers to be able to attract larger market share. And the fourth one is supply chain vulnerability. Also, Balaji, you talked about it, which I don't see it as a risk, but it's also an opportunity for India to now expand its base in terms of creating import substitute and other things. And the last one, also the most important one, is manufacturing excellence. This requires a huge amount of depth to create ecosystems which actually support this entire build out that's happening today. So a lot of things going forward are needed, but we have a very strong base today. Yeah.
Okay. So my next question to Gauri Singh, she is joining from virtually today, and if you can hear me. Okay, fine. I think she is now still to join. And okay, I come back to Proparco now. Talking about DFI participation, it often acts as a signal to commercial lenders and institutional investors. Now, where do you see the greatest opportunity for your company's capital to crowd in private finance into India's clean tech manufacturing value chain?
So I think one of the main goal of the DFIs will be the additionality and the patient capital that we can that we can provide, right? So Proparco in India is doing a lot of long-term loans, guarantee programs, and tailor-made, I would say, project finance for big infrastructure projects. And one of the additionality that we can provide to those clean tech project, it can be very nascent clean tech project or more mature project. It will be really tailor-made financial solutions. So let's take the example of grace period. This is something that we can look and discuss with the client, with the project, in order to align it with the commissioning and the learning curve. So this is clearly one main additionality. And the support we can bring is also behind the financing, I would say. The technical assistance program that Proparco can offer, the ESG standards, this is also something very much important, because often we are one of the first, I would say, private sector capital coming on board. So in order to crowd more commercial financing, the ESG standards are important. One interesting example would be Gravita. It's one of the leading lead battery recycler based in Jaipur. So Proparco with OEB, the Austrian Development Finance Institution, bought $34 million 3 years ago. And one of the main input of Proparco was the ESAP, the Environment and Social Action Plan. And today the ESAP is ready, and we can see the attractiveness of, I would say, of Gravita in the Indian commercial ecosystem. And another great example would be the Sayadri farms. It's not a really clean tech project, but related to adaptation, right? Still a very much interesting project on the climate space. So Sayadri, I'm sure that you know, it's the farmer producer company based in Maharashtra. And Proparco with other DFIs was one of the first I would say, private sector capital into the global FPO ecosystem. So thanks to the first fundraising that they have done with us 2 years ago, they have raised very recently commercial capital. So this is typically the value added that we can have on that space to be more catalytic and more additional.
Coming back to you, Mr. Balla, now clean tech manufacturing depends a lot on steel, rare earth, global supply chains. Now, in the light of that, how should India think about securing raw materials and supply chain resilience as clean tech manufacturing is expanding across sectors now?
See, I think if you go clinically, first you must identify what is critical. So therefore, you must look at the entire chain of components, materials, which are used in clean tech and say which one of them are going to be critical for us, where we might find some difficulty. So it could be critical, rare earths, it could be battery minerals, it could be specialized steels, it could be, different other materials. And then you can decide, and then you can think about how do we, pay attention to all these. That's number one. Second, then you start identifying sources from where you're going to get them. Whether can we have additional mining, as you saw, we are trying to improve the mining of critical materials in India. How do we address, what is possible to be mined in India from mining till the end stage of the component manufacturing, which can be used in clean tech. That's the second part. And of course, you also, whatever is not available in India, then you have to think about where do we source it from. So can we have, let us identify sources which are still untied. There are a lot of sources in the world which are already tied up, which everyone knows. So how do we get tie-ups? How do we have our, either the private industry, private sector, or it is government institutions tying up with sources across the world? You must not also, third, I would say, recyclability. Circularity, recycling is not to be dismissed as a fad. This is one area, if you pay attention, can add to the source of critical materials when at the end of life. And therefore, we must look at strategies on deploying, on improving the recycling and circularity of what we do. And of course, in addition, we must have trade policies which encourage import of materials. We must have tie-ups, and we must have collaborations to make it possible.
Okay, coming to you, Mr. Chaudhary now, how serious are the skill gaps in India's clean tech manufacturing, and what interventions are needed to address it?
So I think where we started out and where we are today, the opportunity of creating a skill-based ecosystem is a phenomenal opportunity. In the next 5 to 7 years, we will see close to 17 million jobs getting added in this sector. But what we lack is the kind of clarity and academic control over the knowledge base in this sector today. If you compare it with China, you see that we have the workforce of various other sectors coming into this ecosystem, which have driven this highly technology based and advanced manufacturing processes. Whereas here, unless companies like us also spend enough effort in building, academia based training methods and infrastructure, this huge scale will be difficult to achieve. While there are a lot of initiatives being taken up by the government, by like the NSDC and others, there is still a lot of work that will be needed to cater to this entire sector. That's what I think.
And how has been the overall your lessons in India's solar manufacturing so far? You've been grown from a module manufacturer. Yeah.
So, as I talked about, I think the lessons have been that we've tried to aim for scale. We've really gone to build it. There are various initiatives by the government which have really propelled the growth for us, like the PLI scheme and the various deployment schemes like Jawaharlal Nehru Solar Mission, which was the start of it. Then we had the PM Kusum scheme, which was a phenomenal runway success, the PM Surya Ghar scheme and other things, which really brought solar in the front and center of the energy mix. I think the way to go about this is also build technology depth, innovation depth, which we currently feel that it's as industry body and government and various interactions, we feel that there needs to be much more done on this. The way manufacturing works, there is a phenomenal dependency on equipment and manufacturing technology coming from China and Southeast Asia in general. India needs to double down on this, and we need to work towards building the innovation ecosystem which will drive the next wave of energy independence and build that at scale with the highest level of efficiency. So I think that is where I feel there is a lot of work that needs to be done. And but other than that, as far as all the policy initiatives are concerned, I think we're really there.
Coming to Dan now, early stage manufacturing often struggles to attract private capital now. Where can blended finance play the most catalytic role here in India's clean tech manufacturing ecosystem?
There is a real utility of clearly blended finance structure to unlock capital and unlock private sector capital. Can be either used for early operational risk during commissioning or allowing commercial lenders to participate when the performance is stabilized and once the technology is proven. For Proparco, I would say the most catalytic use in India will be focused on the battery storage and new battery cells manufacturing. So here we can really see the value added of blended finance. We are also talking a lot about green hydrogen equipment manufacturing, where I think today blended finance is needed. As I mentioned, circular economy and new technology related to circular economy is also something interesting where we need blended finance. And once again, the blended finance should be and must be a very sporadic support. And there is a scarcity also of grant money more globally in Europe and European DFI. So we are partnering a lot with European Union and other multilateral funds in order to see how we can bring grant, concessional, guarantee programs for those sectors in India.
To you, sir, Mr. Balla. Now, India aims to create globally competitive India, the clean tech giants. Now, what one big mindset shift will determine it happens or not?
I think the mindset, whether on part of the government or on part of the private sector, I think it would be that yes, we can be an international player in clean tech manufacturing, in that particular clean tech that we're talking about, whether it is electrolyzer manufacturing, whether it is solar. And when I say solar module, I would say right from polysilicon to module, and not simply only module, indigenously made, 100% indigenous made module. Wind, when we talk about wind turbine, I would say where 90 to 95% of the wind DVA, the value addition is domestic. I'm not talking about 60% or 70%. Then I think the mindset changes. I think we are getting there, that we can do it. Right now, I think we're more focused on scaling it up. But I don't know, I'm not sure whether everyone has the confidence that we'll be able to meet the challenges of international competition. I think we can do it. I think that's the big mindset state I would suggest.
And to you, Mr. Chaudhary, now India has to move beyond module assembly. And talking about R&D and even global competitiveness, now what will it take across R&D, machinery, and even innovation systems for India to compete with global best?
So I'll just take the cue from Balaji and talk about what is needed. I think the mindset shift that India needs is an India clean tech brand. We are very diverse and very spread out in terms of our common standards, our shared data, and our institutional discipline, which has kind of made this if you look at a solar panel, it has to last for 25 years on the field. And there is a lot of engineering and technology that goes behind it. Now, a branded product with standardized protocols reduces financial premium risks, due diligence cycles, and price discounting pressures globally. Now, China has managed to achieve that, but not just because of scale, but their depth of technology and innovation, which they have a significant control over. India needs to build that clean tech brand. And by doing that, we will secure our future in the international markets, not just follow, but lead this transition. We exported 1.5 billion worth of solar in 2024, but it has come down significantly since, almost 1/5. And to regain this momentum and to kind of sustain it, there is a whole lot of effort in those fronts which will be required. I think export leadership in clean tech is a structural shift. It is a long-term journey, and that needs a lot of tactical and strategic approach. So we will have to think beyond where we are today and be able to achieve that through various structural shifts and also building the India model successfully.
Coming back to Dan, global capital is actively seeking scalable and climate-aligned opportunities now. Now, what signal would most, or what will accelerate the investor confidence as far as global investors are concerned in India's clean tech manufacturing story?
I think it's exactly what Balaji was saying, the regulatory, I think this gives a lot of confidence in India. I would say we have a sector which is emerging, solar PV manufacturing, battery, and we have a very, very clear push by the government in order to support those Make in India, I would say, policy. If we take the example of large IPP, renewable energy project, I think the successful commissioning that we can see, this bring a lot of confidence, stable operations, and of course the transparency policy that we can see. If you look at really Proparco perspective since 2008, I think we are no more talking about India has emerging opportunity in the climate and clean tech. We are clearly on a core climate investment market because you have a lot of successful examples, and also this, I think, very, very specific, I would say, to India. We are doing a pilot, but we have this capacity of the speed of scale. We are often transforming this pilot very quickly into a proven model, and other examples are coming up. So this is, I think, really very, very much specific to India due to the domestic, due to the youth, and all the, I would say, policy push and all the curriculum that we are putting in place for those new technology.
And what is your view on India versus China, gaps and opportunities?
Oh, this is a tricky question. I'm the regional head of Proparco based in India, and I'm very happy to do business in India. You should ask it to my colleague in China.
All right, coming back to you, Mr. Bala, sir, some lessons which you would, while you were there in the government of India, and you, from your side, pushed for more and more opportunities that can come in India's clean manufacturing sector?
I think we have to look at the entire value chain. Right now, we've been looking at some parts of it. We're looking at the end product. We have not been looking at the entire value chain. I think we have to go down the entire value chain. that is one key, I would say, key thing to do. And although, of course, it will require more resources. When you say value addition, you have to focus upon, then of course you have to give some incentives, or you have to address some disadvantages, cost disadvantages to make it happen. So there will be some incentive to be built in, to be brought about to make it happen. Second, of course, must be a clarity of policy. I said in the morning also, when we say the ALMM is the key to our solar manufacturing domestic capacities, we must say that ALMM will continue to the next 5 years, clearly. Similarly, RLMM for the wind sector will continue. We will have domestic value addition increasingly being built into these things. So when we give a policy indication in advance, a consistent policy emerges which allows the private sector to.
Okay, to you, Mr. Chaudhary, one quick question on, as the manufacturers are targeting export markets now, if you could recommend one collective action by government, finances, and industry that will unlock India's full clean tech manufacturing potential, what would that be?
I think India is going through a lot of FTA and other agreements. Considering that this is a huge opportunity, I think we've seen the billions of dollars worth of export China has done. For us to double down on this, we need, as I said, a credibility architecture which supports the growth of exports from this sector. The second is, these bilateral trade agreements should mandatorily include exports of renewable equipment from India. There is a AI and data center demand that's coming up in a very big way, and most of it is going to be supported by renewable and specifically solar. So mandating some of those action points in the deployment of these things, I think all of this will lead to a clean energy export market for India, which will be resilient and successful.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chaudhary, and I think with this, it's time to close this session. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary, Diane, and thank you, Mr. Bhalla, for these enlightening comments and thoughts on this topic. Thank you once again.